Uh,
All right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back. Welcome back for real to the next unbelievable, and you're about to hear what I mean by that, unbelievable episode of the Welcome to Humanity podcast. So my name is Dr. Fred, and I'm the host of the Welcome to Humanity podcast. And, some of you have heard me on previous podcasts, but you have never heard one like the one we're going to do today. And some of you may not know that the podcast has been in dormancy for the last couple months while we upgraded it to the present look. And not only the present look, but the present post-production, the present entire broadcasting, the whole process has been moved, hopefully to a new level. And I haven't even seen this particular production because this is the first one we're doing in the new model. So there is so much serendipity and so much synchronicity and so much beauty in what it is that we're doing here that I just have to honor that. And the man that I am interviewing or having a conversation with today really represents that for me from the very get-go. And we've only known each other, we could say out loud that we've only known each other in this world, in this three-dimensional world for maybe 4 or 6 months. But it does seem like we've flown together in previous lifetimes for sure. And we've had a lot of fun together and, been on a couple of retreats. You're going to hear a little bit about my main man, Bearheart. And we're going to do that through what is likely to be one flipping extraordinary conversation. Now, the truth is, I have it in my mind that this conversation isn't going to end when we're done in about an hour. And the possibility of having ongoing conversations and maybe even creating some sort of series or something like that with Bearheart and Fred is something that I'm dreaming of, but I can't promise that it's going to go that way. So today we're just going to take one bite at a time. And it is truly my honor, my pleasure, my privilege to introduce you to my good friend and mentor and teacher and really just in Mankind Project, we talk about being a man among men. And each of us, all of us men are men among men and, women indeed, women among women. And then there's something about Bearheart. And I don't want to hold him out too high to give him a status that's like beyond human. But once you get a little taste of his stories and you see what he's bringing to the world, perhaps you'll share with me that we are all blessed to have this man on the same planet as us on any given time. And I really mean that from my soul. And I'm here to shine a light on what about Bearheart has me know that to be true so that you can share that with me. So Bearheart, welcome to the Welcome to Humanity podcast.
Thank you for having me, brother. Thank you for calling me in such a good way. I'm here. I'm fully present. I'm ready. And I also feel honored and deeply privileged to be able to be on here with you.
Thank you.
It's been a true reconnection. And I agree with what you said, maybe for 4 to 6 months. That's what somebody could write the books on. But yeah, this is a re-remembering of the essence of each other. And I'm ready to keep on rolling it with you, brother.
All right. Well, let's get that done. We're going to talk a little bit just to get this part out of the way. That is, we're going to talk a little bit about like what's going on. So my producer for this show is, my partner, my business partner, Sean. And I told Sean that I had reached a point where I had the next conversation, I had the next podcast planned, and I was like, hey dude, I just got it figured out who my next one is going to be with. And I said, hey Sean, do you know Bearheart? And he goes, yeah, I know Bearheart. I just went swimming with the dude last week. And I'm like, so you got to get, Sean lives in Austin and I live in Grass Valley, and Bearheart lives all over the world. And the idea that, and Bearheart lives in Florida, and sometimes he goes to South America, and sometimes he's in Northern and Southern California. It really felt like a massive long shot that Sean would not only know who you are, but then to have swam in the same river in the week prior to us discovering that. So it speaks, Bearheart, to the synchronicity that you and I have found ourselves in. It's almost not that shocking, right? Between me and you.
Yes.
But it would be shocking to the general public. Like, come on. It's like, but it's not to me and you. That's sort of the game that we've been playing, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Nothing should be shocking at this point because we've been aligning it the whole time when we realize that. And so as it comes, it's like, oh, there you are again. All right. There you are again. Yeah. No coincidences for you and I, for you and Sean, for Sean and myself. Yeah, brother, this is it's beyond all that.
Yeah, right. It's
and just to see us in like completely different walks of life, right? Different ages, different places where we live, but all still coming together. There's a resonant frequency there that we're calling in, and it's fucking working.
It is, dude. And really what you got, when you point to the different walks of life, I mean, really just us three. And then let's throw in San Nika Street, because when you do that, now we're really talking about like, wait, Fred Moss, San Nika Street, Bear Hart, and Sean Offenbach. Like, what?
Come on.
Oh, come on. And then everybody who sort of connects us too. There are connections there. And Sean and San Nika are very close. And it's just a whole thing of, and if y'all don't know who San Nika is, you can look back. I think it's episode 12. I had a great podcast with my man San Nika, who will be back soon for a future podcast, because he's gone through all sorts of transformation in the last couple of years. Anyways, yeah, we look at all that, and it's like, you and I have talked about getting really excited about like just stopping and marveling at the miracle of things as they occur. It's sort of like taking a spectator role. But Bear, I know you not to be very comfortable simply being a spectator. There's something about what you bring to life that happens really from the ground up. I hesitate to sort of leave you an open-ended question. But I do have a question that is kind of like the hallmark of the Welcome to Humanity podcast, and that I am going to leave you with it, and we'll see how you eat it up. And here's how it goes. So Bear Hart, and I'm serious, is choking it up to even say it.
I'm already eating that shit.
So here it goes, folks. Yeah, don't blame me. I just asked the questions. Here it goes. So Bear Hart, who are you?
You looking back at you right now, another version of you at another time, different chapter of a book, an energy to be able to reflect, hopefully something that sparks you up to get you to think about something else, to feel more, not necessarily feel better, to remember that we're here for similar reasons. I'm just a basic ass dude, man.
You are a basic ass dude, and that's what makes you really magical. I hear when you're saying you, I get that you're saying you to me, Fred Moss, but I actually get that you're saying you to anybody who's got the opportunity to stare down this Zoom call right here. Someday, someone's going to be watching this, like, who is Fred and Bear, and they're going to get that you were talking to them. Absolutely,
because that is the whole thing. There's where the synchronicity that's not a synchronicity is going to come together. We are here right now, and whoever comes on becomes we as well.
Yes.
Right. It will be the exact medicine for whoever shows up. And for the ones that cannot feel it, it may just not be their time then, but it's still not for naught.
So let's talk a little bit about that, Bear. There's something about the exact medicine, and you use that phrase, and people might think they know what you're talking about. Oh, he's a medicine guy. And I know that there are people who equate you with some sort of medicine guy. But I've heard you use that phrase, exact medicine, in a very sort of overarching cosmic definition of it. Like the connotation of exact medicine isn't in any way simply restricted to what we put in our mouth or our veins or our eyeballs, is it? It's something else, this word medicine. Help us understand what you mean when you say the perfect medicine.
Great question. The perfect medicine is going to be, the easiest way that I can express it is something that is bringing so much awareness to you that you can't distract yourself. right? Now that can be the wind, that can be somebody in front of you like you and I, that can be, a dog that you're having a relationship with, that could be somebody dying in your family and going through the emotions of that. That could be sitting next to the fire and being able to feel the vibration of that frequency and the different lessons that could come there. There's medicine in everything, every single thing. And if we don't, if we have the eyes to be able to see it, it makes it easier on us. If we don't have the eyes, we have our ears. If we don't have our ears, we have the feeling, we have our nose, we have our senses within this 3D reality to be able to sense the medicine in the moment. Some people just focus on medicine being ingestible medicine. This is complete medicine. And that can be in any moment if we choose to see it that way. So for this, like in this, if I am considered some form of medicine man, then this is ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
And in ceremony, what happens is we have an intention, we have our attention locked on, and we're not distracted. So whether it be the way you look, whether it be the way you speak, the linguistics that you use, the questions that come my way, the time that we're sharing, saying that we're not going to put this time into anyone else, especially having beloveds and family and everything. We are the most important thing to each other right now. That's medicine.
Mm-hmm. Oh, got that. Yeah. And that is medicine. You're right. And I thank you for presencing that you are indeed, without question, the most important thing in my life right now. No kidding. You're actually the only thing that's important in my life right now. It's that good. And that indeed translates to something called medicine. Some would call me a medicine man too, Bear. And we've talked about that. After all, I've written loads and loads of shit called medicine for people. And, and I align with what you're saying here about the medicine being something that is beyond we'll call it a unisense, beyond one sense, not only eyes, ears, nose, taste and feel, but like an experiential, undistractable, an experience that is impossible to be distracted from. Like it just fills your world. It's just right.
Yes.
How did you find yourself there? How is it that you became what I get that you don't necessarily are an educated expert in that way, but what happened in your life, or what are some of the highlights, maybe if you lean back on your past? And frankly, I leave you all sorts of license to explain how you got here. In fact, going into the future and coming back would be okay with me, whatever you want to do. But how is it that Bearheart is Bearheart? And, tell us a little bit more about who you are in the line of look, let's back up for a second. When you asked for a podcaster, so Bearheart, got on Facebook, says, I need someone to interview me. I was absolutely the first person to see the post, landed on it, and he took the post down. And it was about that easy. But one of the things I really got, Bear, was that there's something about the way people see medicine these days, or are dealing with medicine, our colleagues or our fellow earthlings out there, that is a little bit disturbing and alarming, in that it's kind of does it minimize what we're talking about here, or does it bastardize it, or what the hell's going on there that isn't this?
Well, we can look at medicine like we had spoken about. We can look at medicine in all different kinds of ways. I think maybe in the line of work that you were in when it came to medicine, you gave medicine out, but didn't sit around long enough to actually feel the essence of what the medicine was doing. And so what I've allowed myself to do to sort of segue both of those questions that she put in, what I've done is I've allowed myself to be amongst medicine and to not leave, to see what actually takes place, and for myself first and foremost, and then have created space and co-created space that's very safe for people to come do the same. So what am I? Who am I? How and what have I come from? Man, my story is like many others. I came from some shit, and that all looks different for everybody. For me, it was starting off with the father wound
Can I just warn my listeners that you're not
Sure.
like anyone else, and then keep going. Let's hear this history. But
hey, everyone's got a story. Right?
That much you share with all of us. I'll give you that. But you're about to deflect away from that, and I love your story. So please bring it, really, with dear love.
So I come from a past of where there was a lot of trauma, and in many different ways. And within that trauma, I got to learn to be very present with what is. My father left when I was 1. He was a methamphetamine cook. My mother was the rock. It was very easy for me at a very early age to, like, I was the little boy that just wanted to make mom and dad proud. And it didn't matter what it was. With my mother, the first childhood trauma, if that's what it is, it was where I was awoken to her screaming in the early morning, saying that some black man was looking at her in the shower, and like really, really, really freaked out. And I go outside with my little Louisville Slugger baseball bat, like not understanding anything other than being 4 years old and thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to protect my mom, and somebody's after us. My father wound was him taking off when I was 1 year old, and then living some of the earliest memories of knowing that my father went to prison for being a meth cook, and then he came home, and then that's when the training started. Training, AKA different types of torture, different types of lessons and implementations of creating a child soldier. And so when it came to that, those are my earliest memories of knowing that I needed to protect, I needed to serve, I needed to make my family proud. And in certain ways, it was very twisted. I was raised with a lot of death. I was with all of my great grandparents. And so literally being the youngest child in the family, I was the one that my grandmother would take to all of the nursing homes to listen to stories and have my friends that were all very old. And in that, I got to be able to witness so much and experience so much. And in that part of experiencing, I was able to experience death over again and over again and over again and over again. So and that's just like the very first 4 years, right? From 5 years old on, that's when the code came in with my father, and the different training and such happened from there. And then my life story just sort of takes off, because that's where the beginning of programming started. And that's what I have set a life to do, is to understand my own programming, to understand my own patterns and narratives in life and what's happened, and be able to rewrite that. Mm-hmm. In being able to rewrite a lot of the traumas that have happened in my life, the only way I could do that is to refeel it. The only way I could do that is to move it. The only way I can do that is to have safe space to be able to fully integrate what this is. And really, like in a simple term of what maybe some of the people that you may know, I'm just an integrated thug. Mm-hmm. Very simple, very straightforward. I got nothing to hold back. The 4 pillars that I live by is love, freedom, safety, and truth. And I understand that as la fuerza sagrada, the sacred force, what some people would call God, what some people would call God or goddess, which for me, la fuerza sagrada is much more than that. It's an energy that's all around us. It's inside of all of nature. It's the energy that creates the protector, not the predator. It's the energy that can take a predator and bring them into being a protector. And so with love, freedom, safety, and truth, we'll be able to actually feel what people call oneness. We'll be able to honestly feel a base sense of joy the vast majority of the time within this reality. And so I've been a student of all of this, and creating and co-creating safe spaces for people to be able to do the same, to touch into their deepest heart, to work through some of their patterning, and to be able to see it from a clear eye, instead of a distorted version of victimhood and posting the blame on others. Well, let's point that finger back to self and get the lessons, get the nuggets from it, get the blessings from it. Because at that point, what I've noticed is as soon as the lessons and blessings come from the different traumas, then more people in our field will come to us with very similar situations in life, because call it the universe, call it God, call it La Fuerza Sagrada, call it whatever you want to. It will continue to align us when the perfect aligned moment happens. So that's some of where I've come from. That's some of what's happened. And I'm going to leave it to you, brother. Chime in as you wish.
Yeah, thank you. What I really want to do is amplify and fortify and stick in the ground. I think it's pretty obvious as you stare down the camera that you're absolutely not kidding. And this isn't like you're trying shit out. It's not like you're going to see how this works. This is something that emanates from your soul, from your bones, from your balls, from your essence. And I really get that about you. And I think that everyone who knows you gets that about you. And there's something about that I can only imagine that with you being you, one of the disadvantages of you being you is you don't get to be us meeting you. So when we meet you and we get to be how unique or rare or powerful or attractive you are with the Fuerza Sagrada and with what you're bringing here as an essence and truth, you make declarations like that this will bring oneness, a base sense of joy. Like there's something here like downloaded your way. And, I think you probably kept us a little bit safe. Let's just say, I know you're keeping us a little bit safe. And it's, I like calling you out on you doing that.
Call me out, brother. Call me out. Call me in. Where we going?
So you kept us a little bit safe about this child soldier training. And, that's when the programming started. And I look, I'm not here to shine a light on that for shock TV or shock podcasting. But what I want you to maybe, if you're comfortable, and I imagine you will be, like point to some things that have it be what are you, 38 years old or 37, 38 years old or something in Earth years, yeah?
Yes.
For every X, there's a negative X. And in your case, I would say that for every negative X, there became an X that you chose to now live into. So you had negative vibration life from the age of 4 until, I guess, early 20s anyways. And you could tell me about this a little bit, but give us a little bit of the highlights of the freaking bullshit that lived in your life that was really not seen as bullshit from your perspective. It was just a way of pleasing others, which is just flipping shocking, Bear. And I really would love for you to address that.
Okay. So, up until I would say, I don't know, maybe about 6, 7, 8 years, I personally didn't think that there was any like trauma in my life. And I thought that everyone just had their own style of normal. But what I started to notice is when I would actually speak forward some of my story, people would be like, Bear, this is not fucking normal. Like there is nothing normal about any of that but the people that I was around, it was really normal. So like, we don't talk about the normal stuff. We talk about the abnormal stuff. So for me, like, okay, starting at 5 was when my father came home from prison. Something happened when my father was away that really enraged him. From the vibration of it, it's like somebody took his pride. Somebody did something to him where he really felt victimized and was hell-bent on making sure that my brother and I would not allow predators around us or our family. And and he took the role very much of, not as much of like, well, I went to prison, I did something wrong, I learned my lesson, that's not the way we're supposed to do it, boys. It was, and like, we're fully open to be real and raw, right?
Yeah, for sure, bring it.
Okay, so my he was a very sensitive, very loving. I'm going to start off with the truly the essence of him. So loving. When he gave you his presence, you felt like you were literally in front of God. Like there was nobody that could have been there to be able to experience you and listen to you and feel you and so on and so forth any more than my father. He was a beautiful creative and artist and dancer and singer and lover and so on and so forth. And there were a lot of wounds. and those wounds he chose to distract himself in his purest essence, with the majority of which was methamphetamine, was hanging around different people that he could be a big leader for, that wouldn't necessarily see him for his shadow side. He was stuck inside the casinos, and he was literally like a degenerate gambler. And and there's different reasons why he chose all of those different paths. But what you have there is you have somebody who idolized actually being in prison, told the boys in my family that you'd be nothing but a punk ass little bitch unless you actually went through prison and went through mainline, which mainline means that you're not PC'd up, you're not in protective custody, you actually walk with your head up and your chin down, and you're ready at any moment. In that, you're going to be a part of some type of organization. So when I'm 5 and 6 years old and I have my uncles that are coming to the house that are Hell's Angels, that have ice picks and that are waking me up at literally like 2-3 in the morning because they're on a bender saying, boy, get up, I'm going to teach you how to kill somebody. There's like, that was the programming. And for me, because my childhood wound from my father was my father leaving me, obviously a little boy is going to think I wasn't enough. Well, how can I be enough? Make daddy proud. And so I trained the hardest out of all the boys in my family, which I'm the only one still alive. Whether or not they OD'd, whether or not they were murdered, whether or not they're in prison, so on and so forth, that was the way. But there was a very, very similar line. We all went to prison. We all went along a very similar path of being in some form of organization or being linked in with people that maybe weren't the most aligned. Mm-hmm. However, in the moment and in life, I would say that, and to be very transparent, just as much as I represent Bearheart now in who I am as an integrated thug, when I was still in thug mode, I was 100% Bearheart in thug mode too.
Yeah.
And so whether that's training and with my father, and this is like what I would consider normal stuff, as at least up until maybe about 8 years ago and 9 years ago when I had a baby. It took me being a father to understand how fucked up some of the things that my dad was doing. We at literally 5, 6, 7 years old, that was when pain was implemented. So that's when we were cut with razor blades. That's when we were burned with hot wax. That's when we were burned with like a candle. That's when different things of where my father would black out the room and he would turn on a chainsaw and he'd come really close to you and you'd have to just hold your composure. There was no crying. There was no saying stop. There was no screaming. He would literally beat us and beat us and beat us until the animalistic nature came out. And to be able to go from, it's like training. If you think of somebody that's in like a kung fu training, they may not have gone to those levels, right? Young boys in martial arts can, and little boys and little girls can endure a lot. My father just really took it to different levels. He was a martial artist as well. So in all of those teachings at a very early age, like pain was to start off with, because you have to be able to bear pain. And not only just to take the pain, but to make, like, once the pain turns into pleasure, then you learn the lesson. And for my father, when you learned the lesson, you got rewarded. So he took you out for ice cream. He gave you his attention. He loved on you. He cuddled you. He held you. You just, like, you were allowed to watch him fix the fucking car. And that was the thing for my father. I'm going to give you my presence. I'm going to give you my love. I'm going to train you. I'm going to train you to be the protector of your mother and sisters. I'm going to train you to make sure that none of this happens, because there's going to be people that are after them. And then at that 4-year-old mark, as soon as my mom comes out screaming, single mother, saying that this type of a man is looking at her and making her feel uncomfortable in the shower and calling the cops, then I became the one who felt like I was the judge, the jury, the executioner, and everything. And so life continued to play part once I started being the one that my little girlfriends came to, saying that they were being hurt and manipulated by their father, grandfather, uncle, next door neighbor, cousin, so on and so forth, and they weren't being believed. So I'm like a little pit bull. You have a little puppy pit bull, and this is, I'm lived the past 15 years of professionally training dogs as well. The first thing you do is teach it to stay close. The second thing you do is you make sure they understand when they're disciplined and when they're shown affection, and that should not be confused. My father did the exact same thing. So when I reacted in an appropriate way, he praised me and he gave me affection. And that's all I needed to know. Oh, I know what it means to make daddy proud. And then I have mom that knows that I'm trying to be a protector, and mom was going to be the rock no matter what. And so that was my goal from 5-year-old up until about 28, which is when I truly chose love. And believe me, there is not one thing that I've ever done in life that there wouldn't be a way that I could convince anyone or convince myself that I did it for love. And I've done some of the most horrific acts to people that were predators. The code was no women, no children, and no innocents. I'm going to repeat that. There was a code to this. It wasn't just like, hey, there's going to be bad people. No, there was like, hey, there's going to be bad people and we are going to have to stop them. And so you will be trained specifically how to be the predator of the predator. And you have a code to make sure this is quote unquote like a moral thing, right? My grandfather was a police officer. My great grandfather was a police officer in Italy. All of my family, for the most part, were in the military. And so I continually had a constant training, whether or not if that was a knife training, marksmanship, sniper training, hand-to-hand combat, like learning how to steal from the stores, learning how to manipulate people for money, learning how like at early ages, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, my brother and I are leaving from literally the rural parts of San Diego and taking taxis, buses, trolleys, all the way to downtown to be on a mission. We had a specific mission that we needed to accomplish and get back and tell my father about. And this is before I was 10 years old. So in being able to be in the presence of all of that, like that's what turned me into that honest little pit bull that was willing to do whatever my complete idol, my father, told me was right and told me was the aligned way of being. And the thing of it all was when I did come in a protector role, when really necessary, because my dad said, like, we don't act unless we're really going to act. It was glorified. And whether that be from the gangs that I was a part of or criminal organizations, especially in prison and within the CYA. And so that continued to work just like a little puppy. If it continues to work and you continue to get accolades and praise and acknowledgement in positive ways, and everything stayed in a kosher way whenever I was around, then I just continued to do what worked until it didn't work anymore.
Bear.
Thank you.
Thank you. Look, I just wrote down in the last 60 seconds, maybe 90 seconds, some of the words you spit out, because I've been with this conversation. I think this is the third time we've gone down this a little bit. I think we've done it both of the other times we've been together there. And these are some words that I think are, you say, like we get to hear a little bit of what the backdrop is. But the first word you used was this word honest. And then you use the word aligned, and then you use the word right, and then you use the word protector, and then you use the word glorified, and then you use the word accolades, and then you lose the word peace, and then you lose the word positive, and then you use the word acknowledgement. Sounds like a fucking Boy Scout to me, Bear.
I was a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
And I was the best damn Boy Scout you could ever imagine.
Yeah, what I want our listeners to see is that those words don't inherently actually hold the water that they're supposed to. You can have all those things going and be just a vicious fucking pit bull.
Yes.
A fucking killer pit bull. Putting people out of their misery quietly so you can get home to get a hug from daddy that night.
Yep.
So being those things in and of themselves doesn't necessarily create good. I guess that's maybe what I'm saying. And we sometimes equate that if we're doing that, now, we're going to look at the word good. I think I'm going to be careful about that word, because what I know about you, or what you've spoken to before, is you really have been committed to being good like nobody's business every single day of your life. It's just that the definition of being good has shifted, so that now there's a different aim at what good is. But being good is nothing new to you. You've been good the whole time.
If you were to ask my mother, was I a good boy, she would say I'm the best. She calls me her angel boy. She knows everything that I've done in life. I've been honest with her all along the way. And she would be the first to say, like, yes, my grandmothers, my great grandmothers, they would all say, oh, Frangi, he's the best. And that was it. I was the little boy that, instead of playing with my cousins, I helped the elders. I helped them to the bathroom. I asked them all the questions. How long were you married? What made that work? Oh, I can't wait to be married to a wife and have my family, and so on. So yeah, and good really comes from the little boy. Little boys say good.
Yeah.
Right. And really what that is for me, what that's turned into, like the most simple way that it comes is just simply, is it aligned? Mm-hmm. Is it aligned with my current morals and my current intention in life moving forward?
Right.
And it's in that way, there is no good or bad or necessarily right or wrong, because we won't know what that is until it's in the absolute moment. When you have a young boy that has adult decisions, and most of the time most of the time adults will not ever have to make these decisions, but when you have a little boy doing his best off of what he was trained to do, to make the right decisions, it will come down inevitably to what works.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the transformations, or thank you, and one of the transformations or transitions that got made that continue to spin my mind like a top when I talk to you about you. Sometimes I have talked about you. I'm going to be honest about that.
Thank you for your honesty. Yeah, you know me, transparency is everything. If you're gonna quote me in anything, just say that motherfucker don't know a damn thing, and he says it real. But I'm willing to feel it all, my brother.
Something happens somewhere along the line where, I guess at 28 years old, this is an important space, but there's something that happens that has you shift or get that there's another direction, sort of diametrically opposed to the direction you had been at. So as something happens where this same good boy, this same honest boy, man, this alignment, the morals that you otherwise were aligned with, shifts to the point that the source, like this deep source, a force of Sagrada, shows up. Is there an incident? Is there a time, a certain one event, or a certain core event? I believe you once told me that there was either a time frame or an event that sort of like tweaks you into bringing this love, this four pillars of love, freedom, safety, and trust forward in the universe. Like, what happens to move this rabid pit bull to being a pit bull for those pillars?
Okay, so it's another good question. I've always been a pit bull for those pillars. When I was in gangs, and when I start, because I was the majority of the time leader of gangs. So when I was in those positions, the reason why people would trust me was because I brought love, freedom, safety, and truth for them to be able to thrive. When I was in prison, the reason why I was king, literally the reason why I was the key holder, was simply because I created a sense of brotherly love, freedom, safety, and truth. And in that safety, it doesn't mean that there's not going to be discipline. Within safety, there actually is discipline. That's what keeps the unit strong. But there's a safety to know that I will not go overboard on you. The thing was, once I was released from prison, it's like, my system was like, okay, that didn't work, because I went to prison for going to the aid of one of my sisters that was raped and taking the law into my own hands.
Mhm.
Right? I'm not the pickpocket. I'm not the one that just bullies. You raped my sister, and a spirit, like at that time, it would have been my soul sister, and her mother screaming, saying, he's still in the house. You got to help us out. We have guns in the house. We can't call the cops. Okay, I'm on my way. And then she comes and picks me up, and I do what I do to try to get him arrested. It turned into something completely different, where I'm being shot at point blank, and then needed to make another adult decision as a 17-year-old boy.
Mm-hmm.
So that didn't work, right? So what I came to the conclusion of was, instead of killing, I was going to kill with kindness. And instead of burying, I was going to bury with success. And so I tried to forget about everything. And I associated with people that were the least likely. They were the softies, such soft, little, delicate people that I could easily manipulate. I could easily get over on. I had to associate with that kind of person to trust myself, and that I wasn't going to be in a manipulator role anymore. And if I was going to be a family man, if I was going to call in a beloved, if I was going to be a father, I got to change. The thing was, is I still was just burying all of that stuff with having the house and having the other house in Cabo, and then having the most beautiful wife, and then having children, and having my own business, and making literally like a couple $100,000 a year being a professional dog trainer. Like I was doing everything to be the one that everyone wanted to be like, but they couldn't see how much was really still twisting inside. So when I was 28, that's when my brother was murdered by his girlfriend.
Mm.
And that was the time, because I was still at 28 years old. This is a decade. At 20, and this is why this year coming up will be my 38th year within this body. It holds something so true, because this is going to be a decade of not only where I promised myself, but I promised so much more than just myself. I promised literally all my ancestors, all my family that had died, my brother that died, my cousin that died, everyone in all my homies that died. I promised everybody that if I was going to actually make it, I was going to become free. But the one thing I needed to do was, if I wasn't going to kill, if I wasn't going to take revenge, if I wasn't going to still see the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, I had to die myself. So for the first 28 years, I was doing my best to not die.
Hold on a second. I want our listeners to hear this. That's what we're all doing here, Bear. That's the shit that's happening right now. This is where you cut off from being a normal human. The rest of this story, this is where you cut off right here. This is that moment. The moment when you decide, up until now, how did you put it? Like, you're avoiding dying or not, but something happened.
Yep. Up until that point, I did everything not to die. And
Exactly.
from that point forward, I've done everything I can to die, to truly know what it means to live.
Right.
All right. That was where not only was I on my way, literally in the car, to take revenge and stopped, but it was where even more than that, I dedicated to myself and to my family and to everything that I loved, to no more and no longer lie, and no more and no longer manipulate in any way, shape, or form, for any reason whatsoever, simply to come from the heart, no more from the mind. Because what I was taught, when you use your mind, it's for war, it's for strategy. when you're coming from the heart, that's what you do for your family. And that's what I dedicated. Because if I was willing to help, if I was willing to hurt other people, and even, whether or not they were predators and rapists and child molesters and drug dealers and so on and so forth, if I was willing to hurt them, it was simply because I didn't see them as my family. And so, of course, I'm going to manipulate them. Of course, I'm going to do whatever it takes. That's when I dedicated that everyone is my family. I'm no longer a predator. And that was the only way that I could convince myself to actually be compassionate for others that would hurt others, and not to take all of it in my own hands. Truth truly is what set me free.
Yeah.
Being willing to speak the truth, because hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil, was actually the pillars of my life growing up. So I got to change that.
Yeah. So you're in the car. This woman's killed your brother. That's just not going to work. That's about as close as it gets. That's just, don't, you know, at that moment, you get in the car, you're on the way.
I'm not only this, brother, I'm on the way. In full transparency, it had been about 3 months that I had been prepping my wife to not tell anybody that I was going to go seek revenge. And then I had a plan where I was going to go into the bush, because everyone knows I'm a survivalist. Nobody would be able to find me. I'm trained for it. I'm skilled for it. I'm ready for it.
For sure.
And there's and that would have been such an easy understanding of a way. You take my brother, you take my number one, I'm taking all yours.
Dude, all the way back to Cain and Abel. I mean, this is, you know, that's what we got.
Yep. And so that was the beauty of it. I'm on the way. I'm so set. My wife understands it. God bless her soul. My ex-wife at this point, she held that legitimately, and all that pain that was inside both of us. And I'm driving. I already have it all planned out. I know exactly where she's at and the amount of family that she has in the house. Everything is dialed in. And as soon as I'm driving up to the house, I hear my brother's voice say, "Bro, don't let her get you too." This is my contract. This was my contract with her, not yours. And that was when Haley was coming. Haley was just born, which is my first daughter. My brother died on my birthday, December 23rd, in 2012. She was born February 28th, 2013. So it was that crux of the love that I chose was for my brother. It was for this woman who murdered him. It was for her whole family. It was for my daughter that was just born. It was for my wife that I was holding into secrecy. It was for all the people in my family that I love the most. It was for all my old homies that have already died or in prison for life. Like, my love came because I know the complete opposite.
Yeah.
I could have went complete beast mode and justified it. And easily, if I would have turned myself in, I would have been sentenced with something for something much less of a sentence, because it's a crime of passion. I know the whole system fucking inside and out.
No, dude, you would have got it. You got a hand slapping pretty much. Yeah, right. You're right.
But I listened. I listened to my brother, or you can call it God, or you can call it the higher self, or you can call it whatever. I listened, and I chose love in that moment. But in that moment of choosing love, I had to choose death, because if I wasn't going to kill, I got to die. And so from that point forward, my path has been to accept death in many different types of ways and initiations all over the world, within all different types of means that you can think of, whether that be from Mother Nature and Pachamama herself, whether that be through different types of going into different states of consciousness via plants, animals, dance, meditation, so on and so forth. There's loads and loads and loads of ways to be able to, quote unquote, die and come back. So that's what I've been a student of. And that's when I chose love. That's when I chose freedom. That's when I chose truth. And that's when I chose to keep myself safe. Because if I can keep myself safe and know I'm safe, everyone is safe. And I know that you've heard lots of stories. You worked in prisons. You've seen and been around inmates. You've heard every story in the book. Not often do we see those who have integrated out of it that actually ran that shit.
No, you know how many times I've seen it?
I don't know.
Once.
And that's why I'm listening to Spirit when it says, put your voice out there.
Yeah.
You have other old homies out there that need to be able to hear this, because there's juice in it. There's nuggets in it. Nothing is for naught. Every single one of our life experiences, every single one of them, no matter how hard, how turbulent it made things, how much turmoil and sadness and grief has come into our lives, there's wisdom in it. There's literally, the nectar is there, as long as we can see it like that. And then we will naturally become medicine people for the ones that are looking for that specific medicine. And it's our job to hold that line and to speak only truth, not exaggerated truth, only truth. It's good enough.
My goodness, there's so many ways to go. I'm going to take a few seconds to just let it soak. I invite our listeners to do that too. Listeners these days are so interested in being entertained. Like sitting in the stands, but I think you're hitting everybody in their heart. Speak only truth. You know, no more, no manipulation, no lies, ever.
They add up, and our spirit knows it. And then we'll allow other people to lie to us and not call them forward, and we'll know it. There's the cancer. We give ourselves away. We give our spirit away. We give our fire away, our healthy fire, our sacred fire. That diminishes every single time we withhold, every single time we lie or manipulate or create some type of false truth. And the majority of the time, it's still the little one inside of us that wants to be seen, wants to be held, wants to be accepted, doesn't want to be outcasted, doesn't want to be made fun of, doesn't want to be shamed, doesn't want to be blamed, right? It's time for us to grow up. And in that, when we're adults, we should see the power in truth. And not just say truth sets you free, but actually live it.
Yeah.
And that's not always going to be roses and butterflies and
unicorns.
Mm-hmm.
What is the boy, I could go so many ways. So I think I'm going to go here. What is the world is terrified of dying. You know, they're so terrified. They're killing themselves to avoid it. People are killing themselves to make sure they don't die on a regular basis. Not every one of us has to go through having our brother killed by their wife on the heels of being a warlord gang leading chain gang, kingpin to get to where you got to, right? I mean, we can get there without going through that shit.
Absolutely.
So what is this ride? At what point? There's a listener out here who's done some shit. In fact, every single listener out there has done some shit.
Like, yeah, regardless whether or not they're willing to be honest about it.
That's a different story. But
yeah, and if they've sworn a life to never do anything to other people, all of that has been to torture self some way, shape, or form.
Right. So what are they to do? What is the how do we get across to people, or how do you get across to people the value of seeking one's own death as a function of living a true life? Now, how does one walk there?
Not only a function, it's a gosh darn necessity.
Okay.
It's absolutely necessary to be able to have some form of ego shifting experience in life for us to come out of this drug-induced comatose state that we're put in, that we're bred into, that we feed into, that we pay into, don't even know we're doing it. Something gets to happen in life if we're going to take this in a little bit more of a serious, focused, and reverent way. What do people do? Hell, if I know. Start off by not hurting ourselves. As simple as that. If we don't hurt ourselves and lie to ourselves, we won't hurt others and lie to them either. That will stop 99% of everything that's going on. The thing about it, though, is you touched on something right before your question, saying that everyone is so gosh darn afraid to die. They're killing themselves so they don't die. But that's the first stage, my friend. Being afraid of death is still a childlike state. When we actually grow up, we become less afraid to die, but more afraid to live. Like, that's the real fear, is full life.
Mm-hmm.
True life. Because if we're living and breathing true life, none of the stuff that's out of alignment within the outside of self would be tolerated anymore. It would not be accepted anymore. It would no longer be acceptable for the number one money trafficking to be happening is off of little girls and women. Sex slavery. Human flesh. Simple. If it's no longer accepted, if it's no longer tolerated, and we actually get down to the roots of all of it, stop hurting self. Because then we will no longer allow it to happen to others. And if we're willing to put the blind eye onto self, we're willing to put the blind eye onto others. If we're willing to walk past the piece of trash 15 different times on the ground because we think it's somebody else's job to do, it's not my trash. It's not. There's something inside of us in our mental space that's also something that we should be picking up and integrating and throwing in the trash. And we're passing that by too. So it can happen in multitudes of different ways. You know me, I'm definitely not going to be the one that comes on here that says I know what's right for anybody. I know what's worked for myself. No longer fucking bullshitting myself. And when I do choose to be around others, to make sure that my intention is clear from the get-go. This will be a safe space. Doesn't mean you won't get choked out. It will be a safe space to make sure that we have freedom here, to speak your truth here, to make sure that you feel actually like truly loved here. Yeah. So in that, when we can create a space for that inside of ourselves, we will naturally create that on the exterior as well. Mm-hmm. And so to me, it has nothing to do with the food you eat. It has nothing to do with the podcasts you listen to. It has nothing to do with the church you go to. It has nothing to do with Allah or Muhammad or Yeshua or Gandhi or the Buddha. It has nothing to do with any of that. And if we think that spiritualism is going to help us in this 3D reality without seeing the basic facts of simply just going back to a childlike mentality and saying, hey, we don't hurt people. Hey, we don't hurt ourselves. It's no longer acceptable, honey.
Bear, I've been with you a couple times in the woods, and there's something like when you create that space, your level, what you are, it seems to me, is an example of even someone who has done and been around and is completely like articulate and experienced in horrendous crimes to humanity that you may have even frequently spearheaded. that even you can do this, that even you not only can do this, but choose to do it and then do it flawlessly. There are some rules that are flawless. Like we can count on Bear, like the same Bear who was all those dudes for your dad and for the prison mates and for your homies and your extended family. When you create that space of, really this trust and loving space, then even those of us with perhaps, we think we're like, if we watch, I have a client, for instance, who is so terrified of cannabis that when anyone comes around him who smells like cannabis, that's like his biggest crime. He lives a life like that's the biggest crime he commits, is that one.
Mm-hmm.
He is terrified, he is going to be ripped to shreds by his parents and by God himself. So that's a pretty small one in the greatest world of what we're talking about here. But each of us in our crimes, you create a space where, in fact, it does become attractive to live the Forza Sagrada. Like when given a choice to use this life force for the destruction versus the construction, if really given an open choice, isn't it fascinating that people, if given a true choice, will choose the good?
Absolutely. Absolutely, they will, because it's what every single one of our little boys and little girls wants. We also just want to do the right thing. Some of us have been very confused of what the right or wrong or whatever has been, but every single one of our spirits is looking for alignment. And in that, like it's been tested now with thousands and thousands of people. And this is ranging from anything from people that have a similar life story as mine to somebody that jaywalks and thinks that they need to repent for it. Because the safe space, as you know, Fred, the safe space is there specifically so people have an understanding that they can let out their deepest, darkest demons and not be judged for it. Because what it all really comes down to, if we're not going to live a life of solidarity and a lone wolf experience, and we're actually going to be in community, the first thing that happens is we want to be safe. We want to be trusted. We want to trust. How can we truly be trusted if people don't know the deepest, darkest things in our life? It makes no sense. We can't be trusted, which is why when I started truly speaking this story, and I asked Spirit, you expect me to do this and this and this and live in community and help people and provide all this, but what if they don't trust me? And what I hear back is the only way they won't trust you is if you don't tell them the absolute truth. Mm-hmm. Because when you tell them the absolute truth, no matter what, it will touch the ones that it's supposed to, and the ones that it doesn't touch will at least know that they also have an opportunity to release what they thought that they would always hold in. Because if they did speak it forward, they wouldn't be trusted anymore. People would let them go. They would put them to the side. They would judge them. They would shame them. They would blame them. And that's the deepest fear in anybody.
Yeah.
That's why you have this herd mentality. It's because everyone is afraid of being canceled. Everyone is afraid of losing their friends list on Facebook or Instagrams or Chitters, Twitters, chats, whatever the heck these things are these days. Instead of just being gosh darn real about it and saying, okay, well, they may fluctuate. And of course it should fluctuate. The people who are around us should absolutely fluctuate.
Yeah.
Because in that, if we're doing an appropriate job of what leadership actually looks like, what love, freedom, safety, and truth looks like, what joy looks like, what oneness looks like, the people shouldn't stay around you too long. They should be able to feel that, let themselves embrace La Fuerza Sagrada in their own unique, intimate way, and then go spread the light. Mm-hmm. Spread their truth. Create space for people to know that they're safe in their own fire space.
Yeah.
to their own sacred fire, to be a tender of that again. So what I am is just a simple example of what it is in my own vibration. That's it. It's not right. It's not wrong. It's not this. It's not that. It's just the way that I listen to spirit. And the vast majority of the time, what feels most authentic for me is to be able to be in nature, to be able to merge all of it.
It's a remarkable, remarkable experience to have these conversations with you, each and every one I've ever had. And this one, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, I've thought this before. You know, at the bottom of this, I forgot exactly the words you used to describe yourself. You're just like a simple dude or something, whatever you said, you know, just another guy. There is what? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just a simple dude, a daddy.
Yeah.
Somebody, I just want to make sure that, you know, my neighbors are taken care of. My daughters don't have to look over their shoulder. My beloved knows that she could walk to the store 5 miles and she's not going to be catcalled and have the car stop and be made to feel uncomfortable. I want to make sure that my brother who's tending to his yard isn't having bullets crossing his path because he may have a different opinion of who should be the president, or, you know, the simple basic stuff. Everyone's good? Yeah. Nobody's hurting each other? Great. Let's have a fucking barbecue. Let's sing. Let's dance. Let's actually experience what this world is supposed to be experienced in. And it's the joy, it's the nectar of all of it.
Yeah.
How can we do that if we're living in a perpetuated state of fear and a perpetuated state of not actually being our most authentic, expressive self? There's all these masks in front of the mask, in front of the mask. Those get to get ripped off, and we get to have a bloody face for a while and let it heal. Be around people that can actually embrace you, help tend to those wounds, since we've just been putting more and more and more and more in front of what actually truly is.
Mm. Oh. There's beautiful. So I look forward to our next conversation. And this is the conversation we got to have. We got to keep having, because
Agreed.
This is it's a good primer for what we're talking about here. And, you know, we did a vision quest, and I know, we did an initiation together, and there's a number, you know, there's you just show up with generally with men and women, and create a space, men and or women, let's put it that way. And you create a space for the real possibility that this is not simply a pipe dream, and far not only a dream, it's actually sort of like inarguably the only way to live life, like to head towards that. Yeah,
that's what I feel, brother.
Yeah.
And that's what feels most true to me. No, this is no fucking pipe dream. Pipe dreams are what everybody else is listening to. Let's come into alignment. Let's unite. The only way we can do that is if we know how to die gracefully, because then we can live gracefully.
Yeah.
If we're still struggling, trying not to die, then there's no way that we're going to be able to actually feel the sun on our eyelids, to feel the wind through our hair, to be able to be so present with our beloveds and our children.
Yeah.
You know, those are the, for me anyway, that's, as a simple man as I am, like, that's the nectar. It's not having the multi-millions of dollars. It's not having the multi-millions of quote unquote followers that don't care about you. It's not to have the fanciest boat or the fanciest house. I'll live in a dang hammock and, you know, drink from the water stream and do what I need to do to actually connect again. But it's to make sure that if I still, because I know the mission is not to keep my energy bottled up and to be a lone wolf. The mission for me is to make sure that I can be in alignment in society and in community. And in doing so, like, I will put myself out there to find other family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the way that, at least in small groups, we'll know that we do have love. We will be safe. We will have freedom. We will be able to be in our truth. We'll be in training. We'll be in the inquiry of how to retribe.
Yeah.
And so, you know, before we head off, because I think I'm at 5% now, like for you being a doctor, being a psychiatrist, being one that's prescribed things to other people, being one that's listened to all these stories, what lights you up most about hearing a part of my story and being on the complete opposite side, but coming back together in a way where you were like, if you, I could have been the one that you were giving drugs to, right?
Yeah.
Thinking that I'm the degenerate, that I'm never going to get out of prison, that you're never going to be able to trust me. And then you trust me with your wife of all people.
I did.
So what does that feel like to you, my brother?
It's a great question. I think for me, it's a full circle. Meeting you is a full circle towards the beauty of life. You know, I now speak a truth, even a greater sense of truth, and head towards it. I write about it. This, you know, the name of this podcast is Welcome to Humanity. The True Voice podcasting is what me and Sean put together.
Yes.
You know, Authentic Message, the book I wrote, How to Get Your Authentic Message Out to the World. There, you know, there's a for me to, it's true, by the way, I did indeed trust Bearheart with my wife on a vision quest for 3 days, just the two of them in the bush. Like, and I didn't just, it's not a matter of trust. It's a matter of, like, trust suggests that there was an opportunity to distrust you. And there wasn't, it's like, it wasn't even a consideration. And there's no, and given your history, it might appear on a photograph that you would be the last person in the world I should trust with my wife. Like the last person that I have ever met that I should trust with my wife. Because the other Bear is not trustworthy necessarily with my wife, after all. Not necessarily, I suppose. But this isn't the point. The point is, for me, it's a confirmation of the beauty of humanity. It is a compilation of everything, of how close good and bad are to each other anyways. It is the difference between me, you know, let's face it, I'm not that happy most of the time that I'm prescribing medicine, but me as somehow a conventional healer feeding you somehow a, you know, declared felon, drugs to supposedly, I don't even know how the fuck that goes. I really don't. I've done that, but I say whatever I'm supposed to be doing there. We're not that far off. We're not that far off. I think that's what it gets to me. What it gets to me is my crimes against humanity are run pretty deep as well. They're just accepted by society more than yours. So I was just doing what it was to be right too. I was just doing what is good. But if we both show up at the Pearlies together, I'm not sure that Bear that you actually have more crimes in humanity than I do, as it turns out. I just have ones that are acceptable in society. Then they don't, not even acceptable. Gave me a perch as the most powerful position in all of the United States of America as a doctor. But my crimes against humanity, they run really, really deep. And the ones I know that are criminal, the ones that I know have been lies or have been based on manipulation or based on power abuse or based on mistruths with my own authentic self. I'm not sure yours run any deeper than mine. I mean, I kind of am. I get that that's almost a stupid statement for some ways of looking at it. But day after day after day, being untrue with yourself, whether or not you're the jaywalker who's sure he needs to repent, or the mass murderer who pickaxed a family in Utah, they're both fucking crimes against humanity. That if you let them eat you up, they eat you up at maximum levels. Right. And so there's something like, all right, Bear, I'm with you. I've lived a long life too. Let's do this right. Let's go do this right. Let's go do this right. That's right. Yeah, that's what I have.
And I'm going to meet you there every step of the way.
I know you will be, that's where you are, I think our listeners will get this now. It's like, I actually know that, which has me boldly taking a step into nowhere, knowing that you'll be there. It's like, that's what I got. That's what I got. Yeah. Super awesome, dude. Super cool.
I appreciate this, brother.
Let's schedule another time. We don't have to do that on air. I think I'm going to close this particular meeting. We're at about an hour plus. Bear, I want my listeners to know how they can find you. I guess Bear Heart on Facebook, but let us know. Give us a little scoop if someone's like curious to follow you or learn about you or learn from you or whatever they need to be doing. I wouldn't chase this dude down, by the way, with any kind of malintent. That'd probably be the wrong thing to do. But if you want to do that shit, you go ahead and do that. But it's not really what I would suggest. This is a man that's lives in the highest level of humanity, and it may not be him that puts an axe in your eye, but the world will, if you see Bear as anything but a superb example of what it means to be human. So I just, for karmic reasons, I wouldn't chase this dude down to hurt him. That's for sure. And really, God help you if you're fucking stupid enough to do that. Anyways.
Well, we'd have a wonderful conversation.
At least that's really how it would go, wouldn't it be?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be?
Yeah, because you know me, brother. People could try to chase me down and do whatever they need to do. I will last.
Yeah.
And I will outlast most, just to be able to come in. And if we got to get it, we get it. And then we're going to sing together. We're going to have a great conversation. And we'll be brothers or brother and sister after that, because I will still create safe space, even if people are not coming with love, freedom, safety, and truth for me.
Love it. Love it.
That's a part of what actually being La Fuerza Sagrada means. When you are representing the sacred force, then we allow people to go through their process. Again, doesn't mean you won't get choked out, but it does mean that you will have an opportunity to integrate fully. So for me, I am bearheart.com. I am bearheart@gmail are the easiest ways that you can get in contact with me. It makes it pretty hard not to. And the reason why I say I am is not because I'm declaring I am. I already know that I am. It's because if I am, and you're listening to this, there's a bit inside of you that you also have some bear heart inside of you. And that's what we're connecting to. So let's grow this bear heart energy. Let's grow this La Fuerza Sagrada energy. Let's create a society based in honor and respect and courage, capability. That way, the children, the sisters, Big Mama herself will be the safest as they possibly can. And then we can continue to walk in good ways. Again, good, meaning aligned in where and what our intention is moving forward.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it. You're great. I love you dearly. I love you. I love you beyond anything you can know. It's just fantastic. What a super conversation. I don't think either of us actually realized how super this was. And with the help of Sean, we'll send this down to all the folks who need to hear it, and we'll get this done shortly, quickly, and with effectiveness. And, indeed. And let's get on. Let's get it on. Let's get the next one going. So, Dr. Fred here. Look. You see why I woke up? I welcome to humanity again. I mean, it's time to bring this game to the next level. It's time to really look at life. If you haven't noticed, it's even more urgent now than it's ever been. There's no more opportunity to say, I'll do that shit tomorrow. There's no more opportunity to say, it's okay for me to be living less than I know I can. It's no more opportunity to tell lies and pretend that that's the way you're actually being. There's no more real, of course the opportunity is there, but there's no incentives to continue living like that. The opportunity exists to find your real self, bring your true voice, and to just embrace everything it means to be a supreme human. Bear Heart, yes. Welcome to the Welcome to Humanity podcast. And my listeners, thank you very much for lasting this long. What a cool conversation. I will have Bear Heart back again. I know I'm going to get requests for that. And like I said, maybe we'll create a series. We'll talk more about that. So I love you all. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Sean, for producing. And thank you, Bear, for showing up and being in my life. And we'll catch you on the flip side, my man.
Blessings, brother. Always. Thank you.
You're welcome.
La Fuerza.
All right. We do that.